Hello and welcome to Planted Nutrition. My name is Luke, I'm a nutritionist, and in this video we're talking about the impact of our diet on the planet. So I know for many of us, it's incredibly worrying to see what is happening to the planet. Every year, levels of pollution rise, even though we've had scientists saying for decades that we need to be going in the other direction. But something that's incredibly important for the health of our planet is the food that we eat, because our diet has an enormous impact on our environment. And I don't see this talked about enough. We talk about turning off our taps to save water, driving our car less, flying less, all of these things are great. But our diet is actually one of the biggest levers that we can pull personally to reduce our impact on the planet. And I also know this can be a pretty triggering topic for a lot of people. So in this video, I'm sharing what the science has to say about this. I'm not telling you what to do with it, but I believe it's important to be informed about the truth of what is happening so that we can make empowered and informed choices that also align with our personal values. With all of that said, let's dive into this video. Our dietary choices are pivotal in shaping the future of our planet, especially as the global population grows and we have to feed more and more people. This is creating more and more stress on an already overburdened environment. And understanding this link can help us to make informed choices that are good, not just for our own health, but for the health of our planet as well. So I wanted to start this video with some of the most common questions that I get asked about the impact of our diets on the planet. And so the first one is, what is the diet that has the least environmental impact? And in general, eating a vegan diet has the lowest environmental impact, and producing fewer greenhouse gas emissions and using significantly less resources than vegetarian or omnivorous diets. A systematic review of studies, so putting a whole lot of research together and looking at them all together, so a very rigorous study, found that vegan diets had the lowest level of greenhouse gas emissions amongst all of the different diets that they studied. This is largely due to the exclusion of animal products, which require a lot more resources and generate a lot more of emissions in their production. And the question number two is, okay, well, do I have to go vegan then? And the answer to this is no. You have to find what works for you. To be completely transparent, I am vegan myself. It aligns with my values, it's something that works for me. But as a nutritionist, I know as well, it's not always easy. We all come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs and different values and what's important to us. There's also research looking at the effect of nutrition on the environment, and even just eating a little bit less meat can have a hugely positive impact. So something like maybe a more flexitarian approach can work better for a lot of people. That's what I recommend for a lot of my clients. So that's just something that's good to be aware of there as well. And the most common counter arguments that I see against this, I can already imagine the people writing the comments below this video, like, okay, but vegans, they're eating all of these crops, all of these GMO foods, all of these pesticides and everything that are really toxic and damaging to the environment. But the truth about this is, almost all of these crops that are being grown in countries like the United States, the GMO corn and soy and everything like that, is used to feed industrial animal agriculture. And I'm saying this slowly and calmly, but I do find it quite frustrating that people don't want to see this very evident fact. Vegans are not eating millions and millions of kilograms of corn. It does not make any sense, but I see this repeated so many times online, and I know it's confusing for a lot of my clients, so I wanted to mention this here as well. And again, it's important to understand nutrition's a very emotional topic for a lot of people, so it can sometimes be hard to see the truth when it's right in front of you. And I understand, I'm compassionate towards that as well. But on this channel, we are talking about science and not opinion. So anyway, let's move on. So looking into the different environmental impacts of different diets, research has shown that adopting a vegan diet that excludes all animal products, for example, could lower modern Western diets' greenhouse gas emissions by up to 50%. So that's a huge thing, considering our diet is a large percentage of our personal greenhouse gas emissions. To be able to lower that by 50% is absolutely enormous. But even vegetarian or flexitarian diets, as we've talked about before, can also have a much lower impact on the environment than animal products. And just to demonstrate this, I'm going to put up a little image here of the emissions of different foods. And when you can see it laid out like this, it becomes really clear how eating a diet that's very high in animal products is going to have a much larger impact on the planet. But again, it's about finding balance here and something that works for you. And we're going to get into some real world applications of this in a bit as well. And to address the next point that I know people are going to come up with as well is, what about regenerative beef, for example, or grass-fed beef? That's not using all of these GMO feed crops. It's not using all of those pesticides and fertilizers. That must be better for the environment, right? And it's true. It is better for the environment, but just because of the nature of having to feed an animal for months to years at a time, and the fact of having to grow food or to grow grass to feed these animals, especially in areas where there's not natural grasslands, where forests been cut down to create grazing for them, like what's happening in the Amazon, for example. But even in areas where there is natural grassland, it takes a lot of land to raise a cow. So while this is a better option for people, it's also not enough to feed the demand for beef in this world. It's nowhere near enough. So for people who are advocating for regenerative agriculture, I would love for that to be adopted, but it would also mean everyone would have to be eating a lot less beef, which also aligns with what we've been talking about to support the environment. We all probably need to be eating a little bit less meat. Some people a lot less. And the next concern with this is like, okay, well, oh, that sounds great, but what about the nutritional adequacy of plant-based diets? My uncle's cousin's daughter went vegan and she got really sick. I swear I hear stories like this all the time, but it is a common concern. So looking at the research around plant-based diets, and again, this doesn't mean being vegan. Plant-based is inclusive. It can be eating more plants and still some animal products if that works for you. It can be being vegan if that works for you. Again, it's gonna be different for everyone. But if we are wanting to change our diet to improve the planet, probably shifting towards more whole, unprocessed plant foods. So in general, plant-based diets are associated with lower risk of most diseases that plague our population: heart disease, diabetes, poor metabolic health, neurodegenerative diseases. So it's not just something that's going to be good for the health of our planet, but it's also something that's good for our own health as well. And while plant-based diets are rich in heaps of different vitamins and minerals that we need, they're also potentially a bit lower in things, especially vitamin B12, which is important to supplement, but things like zinc and calcium potentially. It's just important to be aware of these nutrients. It's not that we can't get them. Many of us that might be eating a standard Western diet, eating a lot of meat, maybe we're not getting many other beneficial nutrients that we'd be getting from fruits and vegetables, like vitamin C, for example. I know a lot of us, before we're aware of nutrition, maybe we weren't eating well at all, but we didn't know. So it's just about becoming aware of what we need and planning that and making sure that we are getting everything we need. I have a video on this here if you want to check that out in an annotation. And I highly recommend working with a nutritionist or a dietitian who can help you, because it's going to save you so much time and effort rather than worrying about, am I getting enough omega-3? What about B12? Or do I need a supplement calcium? I spent years studying and researching and learning nutrition, and I know that would have saved me so much time in the beginning when I first went vegan, and to address those concerns that I had, but also the questions that you get from friends and family. Where are you going to get your protein and iron and all of these things like that? If you do need further support, I offer free 30-minute health consultations, which you can get at the link in the description. I'd love to help you out if that's something you need support with. And a really good piece of research on putting this together about diets for planetary health is the Eat Lancet report. So the Eat Lancet Commission, they got together a whole lot of food experts from all around the world, And they basically looked at how can we create a diet for planetary health. So that's going to be really good for the health of our planet, but it's also sustainable and healthy as well for people. It's going to give them all the nutrients and nutrition that they need too. And this just absolutely echoes what we've been talking about, emphasizing eating more whole and processed plant foods, and you can still include animal products there as well. And making these changes is not just going to help improve the health of our planet, but it's also important for our own health as well. The report highlights the need for systemic changes in the way that we produce food at the moment to help achieve sustainable food systems worldwide. And they found that adopting a planetary healthy diet, it could potentially reduce about 11 million deaths worldwide from the health problems that we have from eating modern processed diets that are really high in meat as well. And a shift towards more plant-based diets, of course, it's going to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce pollution, pesticide fertilizer use from all of these crops that are used to feed animals in factory farms, and as well reduce the use of land and water. And an interesting finding from the study, they found even that reducing red meat consumption by just 50%, like you can still have it if you want, but just reducing it a bit. Reducing sugar consumption by 50% as well, and then increasing by 2 times our consumption of fruits and vegetables would provide substantial health and environmental benefits. For some people, you might want to go the whole way, but for those of you that just want to make small changes to help improve the health of our planet, you don't have to change everything, just making little swaps. Even swapping 1 meat meal per week for a vegetarian or vegan meal makes a massive difference. And you never know, you might start feeling better and healthier as well. And there's nothing more motivating to make changes than feeling good in your body, feeling more energized and healthier. So to put it all together, our diet has a huge impact on the environment. And plant-based diets, particularly vegan or flexitarian diets, generally have much lower emissions compared to modern omnivorous diets. And while we should work for better farming systems like regenerative beef, for example, and more regenerative agriculture systems in general, the very essence of that involves a big shift in what we're eating in the first place. While plant-based diets are incredibly healthy, they do require a bit of planning and awareness, as does any diet, if we want to be optimally healthy. I mean, putting it all together from my perspective, it's incredibly inspiring to know that food does have a big effect on our planet, and it is something that we can personally do to combat climate change. We're all going to be different in how we approach this and finding something that works for us, but it's something that's incredibly important to be aware of because I don't see it talked about nearly enough. If you are wanting to switch to a more plant-based, vegan or flexitarian diet, this is what I specialize in as a nutritionist, and if you need further support, you can start out with a free 30-minute health consultation available at the link in the description. I'd love to support you if that's something you need help with. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, feel free to give it a like, which really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm, or subscribe for more from me as well. See you in the next video, and until then, stay healthy, my friends.